Hi, it's Christina at Cemetery of Choice. Today's September 1st, and we have a lesson in how wrong I was about illegal abortions. I used to think, like most pro-lifers nowadays seem to still think, that prior to legalization, if a doctor injured a woman in a criminal abortion, he'd be locked up, out of circulation, and that would be one dangerous quack off the streets. Well, sometimes that was the case, but not always. And we are going to look at the one that made my jaw hit the floor. And that is Dr. Hagenow. Dr. Hagenow was born in Germany, came to the U.S., originally set up shop in San Francisco, where she was implicated in 4 abortion deaths, 2 of which went to trial, both of them 2 hung juries and an acquittal. And she decided that she wasn't real happy with this prosecution in San Francisco, so she went to Chicago, I think because she had family there. I think that either her mother or aunt and sister were living there. It's kind of hard to piece together. So when she was in San Francisco, she went by Louise Hagenow. Then when she first went to Chicago, she was Louise Hagenow. And finally, she changes her name to the one that I first knew her under, which is Lucy Hagenow. So the death we're looking at today is the death of Marie Hecht, a Swedish immigrant who at least they took Hagenow out of circulation for a little while. Not a whole lot going on there. Now, Marie worked as a domestic on Dearborn Avenue in Chicago. She was admitted to St. Elizabeth's Hospital suffering from abortion complications on August 28, 1899. Now, by August 31st, doctors decided that they couldn't save her. She was moribund. So they contacted the police. The police nabbed Hagenow and brought her to the hospital along with 2 detectives and a translator because Marie only spoke German. So when they brought Hagenow into the room, she supposedly said to Marie, "Is it as bad as this, my poor child?" To which Marie answered, "Yes, see what you have done?" Hagenow tried to get Marie to say that she'd already been bleeding when she arrived at Hagenow's practice, but Marie steadfastly denied that. So with the aid of a translator, they put together Marie's final statement and she signed it. And her deathbed statement read, "I am 23 years old and will be 24 years on the 10th day of November," which sadly she never makes it to. "I was born in Villicin County, Luzerne, Switzerland, where my parents still reside. I left Germany 4 years ago." So she came to the U.S. via Germany. "In January of this year, I became acquainted with John Schockweiler, a young man about 20 years old who is employed in a freight house in the South Side and resides at 140 Orleans Street. I had sexual intercourse with him about 5 or 6 times, and in the month of May, I noticed I was pregnant. And on Thursday at 12:30 p.m., August 24th, 1899, I went of my own free will to visit Dr. Louise Hagenow at 330 Division Street." And I will have Dr. Hagenow's ad. She laid me on a lounge and examined me, and after the examination, she said she would relieve me of the child, at least she's admitting it was a child, for $75, which was over $2,300 in 2020 money, and said she would take it from me with instruments. Notice her ad says no operation. An abortionist lying. Who ever heard of such a thing? Such a thing has never happened before or since. Turn off sarcasm. Okay, back to what Marie was saying. "No," I said, "no, I cannot afford to pay you $75 for the work. I'll give you $70, which was about $156 less in 2020 dollars. Then she agreed, and I gave her $70. She first laid me on a lounge and began to use an instrument on me. During that time, I suffered considerable pain. I remained on the lounge for about 20 minutes. And this is not something you can attribute to it being illegal. This is something I hear and saw all the time. Companions bringing women in for abortions, hearing women screaming. There's lots of reports of women screaming. So don't attribute that to the fact that this was illegal." Okay. Then the doctor made me get up and walk about the room. I was so weak I could not walk very long. Then I went and laid down on the bed. The doctor then came in and began to use instruments again. I felt as though I was being cut to pieces, and at about 5:30 p.m. she took the child away from me. I suffered great pain, and the following day, Friday, August 25th, I left and took a car for 941 North Clark Street, a friend of mine named Spitzer, where I remained until Monday morning at 10 o'clock, August 28th, when I left and was brought to the St. Elizabeth Hospital in a carriage. If I die, I desire that all costs and expenses attending my funeral expenses shall be paid out of my savings, which amount to $300. This young woman had put away a decent amount of money, and which is in the Germania Safe Deposit Vaults, corner of Clark and Germania Place. Mr. Gaume, my employer, still owes me $76 for services rendered after all the aforesaid expenses are paid. I desire that the balance of my money be paid to my parents, John and Ann Hecht of Villicin County, Luzerne, Switzerland. I now see the woman standing at my bedside who performed the abortion. Now, in the subsequent investigation, the dates are off one day from what Marie said, but everything else jives. Augusta Spitzer, the friend to whom Marie had referred, said that Marie had come to visit her at her place of employment on the morning of Thursday, August 24th, and remained there about an hour. Marie had been in both good health and good spirits. The next time Augusta saw Marie was around 8 p.m. on the following day. Marie had come to Augusta's home sick and needing help in undressing and going to bed. Augusta noted that Marie's clothing was bloody. Now, they didn't have a professional come in and give any medical care, but they did have one woman sit with her the rest of that day, and another friend came and sat with her overnight. Then Tuesday, Augusta said Marie was taken to the hospital. Now, Augusta visited her alone on Wednesday, and on Thursday and Friday in the company of two friends. And when the women arrived on Friday, according to Augusta, Sister Philomena, who had been present when Marie gave her dying declaration, told them that Marie had said to Hagenow, "What did you do to me? I've got to die." Hagenow responded, "Yes, what did you do to me? See what trouble you bring me? You promised me not to say anything to anybody." Marie replied, "Yes, I did, but I could deny it no longer," and she died on September 1st. Now, the doctor who performed the autopsy testified that Marie's vulva, vagina, and uterus were in a mutilated condition, along with bruises and lacerations indicative of the use of some odd instrument. Now, this is not, again, unique to illegal abortions. I've read autopsy reports from safe and legal abortions where the woman's innards were just torn up. So don't pretend that this was because the abortion was illegal. It's because the person performing it just wasn't being diligent. That hasn't changed. Now, one of the items entered into evidence in Hagenow's trial, paradoxically entered by the defense, was a note to Hagenow from a midwife named Paulina Bechtel, who was pretty much a known abortionist. She was in trouble with the law a lot. The note said that Marie had come to Bechtel wanting an abortion, but Bechtel considered the case too difficult, so she was referring her to Hagenow. Now, Hagenow was hoping that this would enable her to implicate Bechtel in the abortion death, but it didn't work. Hagenow was convicted of manslaughter, and she was sentenced to Joliet. Look, that's beautiful. 1900 census. She is in prison. In a later trial, she confessed that she'd wrapped Marie's baby in newspaper and buried it in a vacant lot on Milwaukee Avenue. And I haven't found out if they ever recovered the baby's body and gave it a decent burial or whether they just left it buried in a vacant lot. Now, like I said, Hagenow had already been implicated in 4 deaths in San Francisco. And since she'd come to Chicago, she was implicated in Minnie's death in 1891, Sophia and Emily in 1892, Hannah in 1896. Then let's look over here where I have all my documents. She wasn't tried for the other deaths. She was acquitted in Hannah Carlson's death on July 28th, 1898, a little more than a year before Marie died. Fat lot of good it did to convict her in that death. She got out of prison, started advertising as Lucy Hagenow instead of Louisa or Louise, 1905, dead woman. 1906, dead woman. 1907, dead woman. This time they locked her up for a long, long time. But when she got out, she made up for lost time. 1925, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dead women. 1926, another dead woman. You can imagine how this fragged my brain when I saw this. She was a known abortionist. She was allowed to get out of prison and kill 6 more women. Were these people crazy? Now, they did convict her and send her to Joliet again for Mary Moorhead's death, pretty much expecting that she was going to die there. It took her 2 tries, but she did get the courts to grant her a new trial. But when she came in, the judge took one look at her, figured she was on death's door, and basically told her, go make your peace with God. And as one reporter put it, she muttered something inaudible and shambled laboriously from the room, which is why I want to like, share, subscribe. I want to go to Chicago so that I can write a book about her called Shambling Laboriously, The Many Trials and Names of Abortionist Hagenow. How was she able to get away with this? We know how Gosnell was able to get away with it. It's because all of his friends in the pro-choice movement were enabling and covering for him, right? Working at a National Abortion Federation clinic that's providing him with 3rd trimester illegal abortions every Wednesday. Other National Abortion Federation clinics referring to him. Wasn't that sweet? And even with 2 dead patients and an ex-employee telling the Department of State that he had untrained staff administering narcotics when there were no doctors on site, flea-infested cats crapping on the floor, women wrapped in dirty blankets on blood-stained recliners. They didn't bother going in and doing anything, did they? So we know how Gosnell was able to happen. How was Hagenow able to happen? Like, share, subscribe, get me monetized so I can find out.